everyone, welcome to today's webinar on DEWETRON's latest software update of Oxygen 7.5. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us today. I'm Gabriella Scott, the marketing specialist here at DEWETRON Inc., and I'm joined by our senior applications engineer, Corey Clark. How are you doing today, Corey?
Hey, Gabby, I'm doing really good. Excited to present some of these new features. Thanks for the introduction.
Great. So before we dive in, we'd love to get a quick idea of which version of Oxygen you are currently using. So if you don't mind, please take a moment to participate in this poll that just popped up, and we'll give you just a few seconds to respond. Okay, great. Thanks for participating. So before we get started, there are a few quick things that I'd like to mention. We would love to get your feedback, so stick around until the end of the presentation to take our short survey. Also be sure to follow us on social media. You can scan the QR code shown here to do so. And if you have any questions at all during the webinar, feel free to ask them in the chat and we'll answer those for you at the end of the presentation. All right, let's get started. So we have a bunch of really exciting new features that come with our Oxygen 7.5 release. Corey, could you please tell us a little bit more about what to expect from this update?
Yeah, sure thing, Gabby. So the first thing we're going to hit is the shock response spectrum. It's a new addition to the math section of the software. We have a improvement with flicker reporting. We've had flicker in the software for a while, but we created a new display to help a lot with the actual testing process. We've added some math calculation for histogram generation. We've improved the recorder and chart recorder instruments by adding cursor extensions to give you a second set of cursors there. There are a few new SCPI commands available, and we've improved the speed of our exports for some of our most commonly used exports within the software. In addition to that, there's several miscellaneous quality of life improvements that we've added to the Oxygen software, which should make the user's experience of the software even better.
Great. So to get started, could you take us through the shock response spectrum?
Sure thing. So the shock response spectrum, it's a new offline calculation method. So this will work with your already recorded data files. So you can post-process this. And it's going to allow you to determine, of course, the shock response spectra. This will take in this will be used by a measured acceleration signal. So you must have that within your data file, of course. But this acceleration signal, once you set up the SRS calculation, is essentially just exciting a set of spring mass damper systems that reflect different frequency bandwidths. So this is great when you have a device under test and you don't want to subject it to extreme shocks. So you can actually just simulate this and get a great idea of what could occur under different shocking loads. All right, so this is great for evaluation of material fatigue testing and system stability, identification of potential failure modes for devices under test, and for optimizing the design of your structures or devices. Within the software, the input signal for this must be a series of time discrete shock events measured by your accelerometer. So within Oxygen, you can actually do multiple shock events within one recording here with this package. And when you use the SRS plugin, you're going to be able to set your start frequency, your stop frequency, the frequency band. And in here, you can also do calculation settings, such as setting the damping or your Q factor, what kind of spectrum you're looking for, whether it's the absolute maximum, your minimum, or your maximum, and then how the calculation is going to be driven for the output channels. And that's the input range mode field down here. So the way the calculation is driven is by the A and B cursors within a time domain instrument. We just envelop the shock event in the cursors, and that will set up the calculation to be done for you. I'm going to show you that on the next slide. Now, I just want to briefly talk about the settings here down below. In here, when you set up your frequency and calculation settings, you can select the input channels that you'd like to calculate those, use those settings again, and then you have output channel selections, so you can get your acceleration, velocity, and displacement output values. And then you can also select single degree of freedom output values for specific frequencies. So in here, in the example, we put a 75 hertz frequency, but you can also add a semicolon and add some other frequency values if you want. If we move up and follow the arrow in this picture, you can see that for the single degree of freedom channels, we've created 2 of these by inputting 31.5 and 100 hertz. These are going to be time domain channels for you, and so they'll be used to actually show the single degree of freedom values based off of wherever your cursor are at. And to display and show all this data, on the next slide, we have in the bottom left-hand corner, we have a picture of our display, and we have a recorder up top. We have a chart, array chart, bottom left-hand corner, and then we have a time domain instrument in the bottom left-hand corner. When we take our data file and we turn on our cursors in our chart recorder, we surround a shock event. The cursors will set up the calculation or start the calculation, and the output values will be displayed in the other displays down below the recorder for you. So as I was mentioning before, if you did multiple shock events within one data file, you can surf through your data file with your cursors and find those individual shock events. And every time you do that, these other displays will be updated for you so that you can look at your acceleration, velocity, and displacement for that event. And then you can also look at the single degree of freedom channels that you generated for specific frequencies in your time domain instrument in the bottom right-hand corner. Now, when you're setting up your calculations, you just simply double click, or when you want to set up your recorder to calculate the different values for your SRS outputs, you're going to double click on your recorder to go to the instrument properties. And in here is where you'd set up your standard cursor measurements. So you check your cursors on and set your different calculation parameters. But you'll notice that there's now a new box next to the cursors checkboxes. And when you select that, that's going to tell the instrument which SRS calculation group to update. So if you have more than one group for the SRS calculations within your software or your measurement file, you can actually set up different recorders using different cursors to look at and drive the calculations for the displays for these different SRS groups. Now, lastly, one big thing to note is that this is a license option. So you'll need to contact your regional sales manager, DEWETRON regional sales manager, and inquire about the new OxyOpt SRS update. And they can work on getting you a demo license for it so you can test it out, put it through its paces, and see if you like it.
Great, thank you. So next in line, we have flicker reporting. Could you please tell us a little bit more about this feature?
Yeah, sure thing. So Flicker has been in the software for quite some time now. It's always been part of the Power Advanced package within Oxygen, but we never really had a display for it. So we've added that to the software to make it a lot easier for our clients who are doing these types of tests to do reporting on it. And so within the Power Group display, which is something you just drag and drop to the screen to display your general power values in a table and look at your phase diagrams. When you have Flicker active, there is a light bulb image in the power group display that you just click on, and that will bring you to the Flicker judgment table here. And as you run your flicker test, or if you double click on this judgment table, you'll be able to set up the properties for it. So you could do your limit DC, limit Dmax percentage, perception short time, and perception long time limits. And that will be tied to the table and to the flicker values that are coming across it. And once for each PLT, we'll set up and run the table, and you'll see your pass or fail values. And if there's a second PLT run, you'll see that update as well in the table. And if, say, run 2 failed, that run would be presented to you at the end of the measurement for the failure. And then it's likewise, if run 1 had a failure, that would be presented to you right away as well. At the end of the day, after you've run your flicker test, you could take a simple screenshot of this display, or you could just simply select this display and hit Control C on your keyboard to copy all of the data from there, and then you can paste it into another application such as Excel. Just like the SRS package, this will require the Oxygen Power Advanced package to get access to the flicker calculations. But once you have that, you'll have access to this table as well. So we're just hoping that this will make your lives a little bit easier and make the software more enjoyable for you when you're doing these flicker tests.
Yeah, really cool. Next, could you please give us a closer look at the histogram feature?
Sure. So the histogram has been added to advanced math section in the channel setup section of the software. This histogram is going to allow you to determine and visualize the probability distribution of time domain signals, as it says on the slide here. So basically, we could set up a bunch of bins along the x-axis, and we can count how many times those bins, how many times those bin have occurred during a measurement with a time domain signal. So we can start to tally up those things if we need to. Some of the calculation properties, we have upper and lower calculation limits, the number of bins to define our x-axis resolution, and then you can set different histogram and distribution types. So we have absolute or relative count, which I was just mentioning, or you can also set it for density or distribution as well. These histogram channels are going to be visualized using our array chart instrument, and it can accept synchronous or even asynchronous time domain signals. So if you're doing high-speed analog input recording along with some low-speed temperature measurements coming over RS-485, you can bring those signals into your histogram as well.
That's a great feature. Now that we've covered that, let's take a look at the recorder cursor extensions.
Yeah, cool. So for the recorder cursor extensions, for the people that are really perceptive, you may have seen this already when we were looking at the SRS time domain instruments, where I was showing where you would move the cursors to drive the calculations. Now in here, in Oxygen, we've added the ability to set up a second set of AB cursors, nicely named A2, B2 cursors. And to access these is just simple. It's just like you access your standard cursors. You can click the nice cursor button in the upper right-hand corner of your recorder, or you can simply double-click on the recorder to access the instrument properties. Once you access the instrument properties, you'll simply check the tick box to access or enable the A2, B2 cursors. All right, so in this, once we've activated the A2, B2 cursors, they just pick up the cursor parameters that were already checked at the bottom of the screen for your initial cursor set. And so once you have that active, you'll see that you have both sets of cursors on your display now, making it nice and easy to compare the fall time with the rise time of a signal or vice versa. And as you can see, these values are presented to you in a cursor box below the recorder, just as before. But we have a nice line of delineation here between A, B, A2, and B2. Now, these values, they are part of the instrument itself. So what you'll have to do to pull them out of here is just simply click the clipboard button in the corner, and then you can paste those values into another piece of software like Excel if you're doing some calculations. Additionally, something that's also been changed with our cursors or improved with our cursors is that we've increased the max number of samples that can reside between your A and B cursors. Before it used to be 10 million samples, but we've doubled it to 20 million samples because we know we have a lot of clients out there using our high-speed multi-cards and our high-speed power cards. So we wanted to make their jobs a little easier and their experience with the software better when they're doing these types of cursor measurements with so many samples recorded per second. Lastly, I'd just like to say that this cursor improvement is available for the recorder, which is the time domain instrument where you're going to overlay all your signals together. And it's available for the chart recorder as well, which is the nice time domain instrument, which has stacked y-axes for your separate channels. So you can use it in both of those.
Perfect. Can you tell us a bit about the new SCPI commands that come with this update?
Yeah, sure. So for the users that love to use remote control with the DEWETRON instruments, we have added SCPI commands throughout the history of Oxygen. So every release, there's typically something new within the SCPI side of the software. SCPI also is free. It comes with the software. It's part of your license with the basic package, and it allows you to remote control the system by, setting what setup file should load, start and stop recording, and then you can also query values from channels that are being measured. There's a lot of other features such as setting up screens and triggers as well, and so you could check out the SCPI manual for all of that. But some of the features for SCPI that we've added within Oxygen 7.5 revolve around the use of formulas. Before, we didn't have access via SCPI to the formula section of the software, but that's now been added. So within the software, you can send a command to add new formulas to your channel list. There's a command to query the formulas that you've created or that exist already within the channel list. And then you have the ability to edit them. So if there's a mistake, you can make some changes. And then if there's something that's left over you don't need anymore, of course, we have a delete function as well, SCPI delete command in there as well. So it's just some more features added over time via SCPI. But with that said, we're always taking in user feedback. So if anybody has some SCPI commands that they use regularly and would like to see implemented within the software, you can always write us at us.support@dewetron.com and let us know how you use these SCPI commands, what they do for you, and how they're a benefit. And then we can pass that on and see if we can get that pushed into the software for the next update for you.
Great, thanks for the insight. What's next?
Now, we've also improved our export speeds for some of the most commonly used exports within the software. In Oxygen, there's a ton of different exports, but the text, CSV, and XLSX exports are typically used more than others. So these export formats, they've been improved so that they're now 20 to 25 times faster, depending on the PC configuration, of course. But everybody should see an improvement with the export times when it comes to these file formats. These improvements have already been released with 7.4.2. So if you have that version, you may have noticed this already, but we just wanted to reiterate it so that more people are aware.
Great, thank you. Last but not least, we have added many other miscellaneous features. Can you tell us about what to expect here?
Yeah, so some of the other miscellaneous features that we have, one of them is tied to the Spectrum Analyzer instrument. So in here, in a Spectrum Analyzer, we can set various cursors to mark different frequency points of interest, and they reside in the cursor box down below. Okay. Before, we didn't have a way of getting the cursor values out of this instrument because they do reside within the instrument. But now we've added that clipboard copy button to the FFT instrument. to make it easier to get the data out of there and over to a CSV or Excel file, just like on your time domain recorders. Quick fact, you could always do this with the FFT. You can click on it and hit Control C if you'd like, and then Control V in Excel, and it will do the same thing. It's covered in the manual, but not a lot of people realized it, so we've added a new button here to make it a little more intuitive. Another change that we've added to make life easier was improving how you set up the extraction of harmonic elements when you're doing a power and advanced power analysis test with harmonics and interharmonics turned on. Before, you would have to take your harmonics channel itself, pass it into a math channel, then use brackets to extract a certain element of the array or vector. And that was a little time consuming and cumbersome. And it required you to know a lot of special moves within the software, so to say. Nowadays, what we can do with Oxygen 7.5 is under the harmonics calculation, we can click on the setup button, and that will bring you to the array chart setup screen for the harmonics channel. And there is a new text field that allows you to put a value in with semicolons to extract specific elements from this vector. And so we see that we've extracted elements 1, 3, and 5. And if we follow the arrow over to the left, we can see our harmonics channel now has a drop-down arrow that we can expand so that we can get access to the first, third, and fifth element of this harmonic channel. These channels can now be used for display. They're recorded to disk, and they can be used for triggering if you ever have to do that as well, and also used in math calculations too. Another nice quality of life improvement that we added to the software lives in the channels list. Within the channels list, you always, of course, saw your chassis, your Trion or Trion 3 boards listed, and they're always listed in the proper order. But one thing that can help the user identify these boards much easier with like maybe a high channel count or a high board count system setup is adding the actual slot number that the card lives in next to the card name. So once you install Oxygen 7.5, jump into channels page, you'll see that there. So hopefully that can improve your life when using the software and make setup all that much easier. Some further miscellaneous updates. We did a update to the modal test platform that we have in the software. This has to do with the MIF, or the mode indicator function. Basically, if you have several excitation points that you're using for your modal test, we'll now generate an individual MIF per excitation point to help you out there. With our table instrument, we've updated how it works. There was a display bug that would happen that would change the data, the way you viewed the data within the table. That's been resolved. So if you like to use that table instrument, please make use of it again. And within the recorder, we did a simple tweak, but it helps out quite a bit, especially when evaluating square waves. So in the recorders, we could do automatic scaling, of course. This would set your signal to plus and minus 100% of the instrument's display. So with square waves, you kind of wouldn't be able to see the top and bottom of your square waves. Now we've adjusted that, so when you auto scale, it's not 100% of this plus and minus. It's going to be plus and minus 102.5%. So this will give you a little bit of headroom for your square wave signals and your other signals so that you can more easily evaluate them. As you can see in the picture here, we can clearly see the peaks and troughs of the square wave that we have here. And now for the last page of, or second to last page of miscellaneous updates within the software. A small update is under the localization menu where you would find like the switch for Fahrenheit or Celsius or language settings. We've added a thousandths separator option. where instead of having no thousands separator, with all the numbers kind of squished together, now we have the ability to set it to be a space between the thousands positions, an apostrophe, or an underscore, hoping to make reading the displays a little easier for you as you're surfing through your data file, looking at these values as they update when you play the data file back. Additionally, we've done an update to our Tryon 3 module, the Tryon 3 1802 DLV and the Tryon 3 1600 DLV series. These boards are used to bring in our legacy signal conditioners, or legacy single channel signal conditioners called DAC-P modules, into our Oxygen software. So if you have these single channel DAC-P modules, you can have them installed in a DEWE 30-16 rack with the appropriate output connector. And then all you need is a special DLV cable to bring it into our DLV card. And so now we can kind of go back to the future, where we can pull in these legacy items that you may have and bring them into our new Oxygen software. And within the Oxygen software, you'll be able to set up your DAC-P signal conditioner, all of the parameters on the signal conditioner. And now with the 18 or with the DLV board that you're attaching the legacy equipment to, you'll also be able to set the filter on the DLV board. So the big change was that the filter could never be set. It was always on auto on the DLV board, but now that's been changed, so you can raise and lower the filter value at will. Okay, and now for our last page of miscellaneous updates. The first one here is a really nice update for the software, and it's in Oxygen 7.5, where if you load Oxygen 7.5 and you have not updated your drivers, and you have maybe not updated the firmware of your front end device like your TrionNet, your TrionNet 3, or NextStack, you'll now receive a warning within the Oxygen software. We all know the warnings and messages pop up in the bottom right-hand corner of the software. So when you're firing up Oxygen 7.5, just be on the lookout for a warning like this. If you do see it, please pursue the upgrade for the Tryon drivers, and please pursue the update for the firmware of your NextStack, your TrionNet, or your TrionNet 3 device. If you don't have them, we release them on as concurrent releases. So when we release Oxygen 7.5, we'll have a Tryon driver 7.5, and then we'll have firmware for the front end devices that is 7.5. And we just always state that you keep those on the same exact levels. If you don't, you may have unexpected measurement errors or behaviors within the software. Now, some of the other miscellaneous improvements would be an improvement to our data stream interface. This is a TCP/IP based output interface plugin that we have, where you can stream all of the samples that you've collected up to a limit out of your system as packetized data sets. So you can send it over to another system or another piece of software where it can be broken apart and displayed and collected. So we've improved the latency for complex Oxygen net systems when using the data stream interface. So if you're using that type of configuration, please use the data stream interface, and we hope you enjoy the latency improvements there. For stability improvements for long-term measurements, oftentimes there be, depending on trigger settings and the setup within the for the measurement, there may be a ton of markers generated within a measurement, and this could be could put a load on the system, and especially when talking about long-term recordings, like multi-file recordings too. And so we've improved this so that it's not going to load the system down like it was before. So if you're having any types of issues with long-term measurements, just know that in Oxygen 7.5, we've improved this to make the experience better for you. So please upgrade and try it out. And then we've also improved scheduling for offline calculations. So your offline calculations, if you notice that some of them may have taken a longer time in the past, next time around you should see that they run quite quickly for you. So we hope that all these miscellaneous updates improve your use of the software, improve your experience with the software. And I'd just like to say thank you to everybody who joined the presentation today. And I'll pass everything back to Gabby.
Yeah, great. So that brings us to the end of the webinar. Again, thank you so much for joining our update on Oxygen 7.5. We really appreciate your time today. And a huge thank you to Corey for showcasing the new capabilities. Again, if you have any final questions, please drop them in the chat now and we can follow up with you afterwards. And as a reminder, we would love your feedback, so be sure to take the quick survey at the end of the presentation. Yeah, thanks again for joining us. We hope this was useful and have a great rest of your day.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks.